Hello and welcome to another episode of OTG's Fast Break presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Harris Wichard. And if you didn't know, this is a fast-paced, quick-hitting show. We talk breaking news, try to get you a 10, 15-minute show where we cover everything. But Harris, before we start, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Obviously, Christmas is approaching for somebody like you tomorrow, the trade deadline at 3 o'clock. It's exciting. A lot of rumors going along, but we'll get started with your Nets, a deal that's been done today.
Yeah, so we got two trades to talk about today. Obviously, the Lakers and Rockets, and then the Nets and Wizards, which just happened probably about an hour ago. So the Nets traded Bojan Bogdanovic and Chris McCullough to the Washington Wizards for a 2017 lottery-protected first-round pick, Marcus Thornton and Andrew Nicholson. What are your initial thoughts? I'll give you my thoughts because I got a long spiel.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be excited. I don't know how you feel about it, and I'll ask you in a second, but I think you have to be excited about being able to turn Bojan into a first-round, like you said, lottery-protected pick. And I think in terms of that, I think it has to be looked at as success. Chris McCullough didn't – I guess they're not giving him a lot of time to develop, but I don't think that turned out exactly as they thought it would. And, banged up in his rookie year, and I guess they didn't see enough from him in the D-League and in a short stint this year with them. And, for the most part, that's how I look at this. The Wizards aren't getting a ton, but I think the only thing that really, when I looked at this, the only thing that really stood out to me was that draft pick, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the Wizards' perspective and the Nets. I mean, from the Wizards' perspective, you add Bojan Bogdanovic, you definitely need bench scoring. He can help you in that role. Also, Bojan's a great corner three shooter, and one of John Wall's specialty is setting up guys in the corner. We know a few years ago, Trevor Ariza had one of his best seasons with the Wizards. So I think that'll be a great combination. You also can we've all talked about it. We talked about this on the show a million times, that the bench was weak in Washington. So Bojan definitely helps them there. He's a solid scorer, obviously not a great defender. And then Chris McCullough, this was a Billy King draft pick, not Sean Marks. So I think that had partially something to do with it. He was a D-League All-Star this year, so there is some potential. So, I mean, the Wizards could kind of look at it as their rookie this season because he's still some time away from the NBA. I don't know how good he'll ever be, but for the Nets, I'm pretty happy about it. They turned Bojan, who's a restricted free agent at the end of the season, into a first-round pick. They lose McCullough, but McCullough played 72 minutes this year, and they obviously didn't seem that interested in him. They do have to take on the Andrew Nicholson contract, 2 years, $13 million, with a player option for $7 million. So, I mean, they can handle that because they have so much extra cap, and they could always stretch it out if it really bothers them. And then Marcus Thornton's just a 1 year expiring $1 million deal. So from the Nets' perspective, I love it. Now they have 2 first-round picks this year. Obviously, they don't have their own, but they have the Wizards and the Celtics, which is nice to have 2 instead of 1. Maybe they could move up if they had to, or, they do need young prospects. So, and guys that they actually want.
When you say lottery protected, both these teams are headed towards the postseason. Would both be in the mid-20s, though?
Yeah, it's probably going to be late. It's probably late, but I don't know why they wanted the lottery protection. I think teams just, go the extra mile sometimes because obviously we know the Wizards are probably going to make a deep playoff run. So Both these picks, the Celtics and the Wizards, will probably be late. So maybe they put them together, try to move up, or they just take a chance on 2 guys. I mean, they got Karis LeVert this year in the early 20s, and I think he's going to turn into a nice player. So I trust the front office.
Yeah, and I guess they do that just to assure that, like, say, an injury in Washington, they happen to slip out, something like that happens, then that pick would be guaranteed to still be theirs. Like, how does that?
Yeah, so if say like there's usually some other criteria sometimes. So like say it's lottery protected 2017 and it happened to be in the lottery, they would get the pick sometimes in 2018 or 2019, depending on the details of the deal. But the Wizards obviously aren't going to be in the lottery unless, like you said, Wall happens. But even then, I think that they still probably would not fall into the lottery. Right. But if it did, it would depend on the details of the deal, which usually they don't get released right away when the trades happen. So we might not find out for later in the day or maybe another day. Or
you said, speaking on Bogdanovic for Washington, I don't think it's exactly what they were looking for. I think this deal is a win for the Nets. And hopefully, from the Wizards' perspective, he can provide, like you said, a spark. But I'm not quite sure this is exactly what they're looking for. I know Shabazz Muhammad was a name that was being floated around from Minnesota. That was a possibility for Washington. They obviously need depth and wing scoring So I guess Bojan can provide that to a certain extent, and he'll get better looks than he got in Brooklyn. So maybe his percentages and his numbers will go up a little bit from the talent that he's playing around.
Yeah, exactly. I think the talent he's playing around. He'll also be playing in the second unit, where a lot of the time he started for the Nets, and he was looked at with Jeremy Lin out as second or third option a lot of the time on the team. So I think it'll be a lot easier, and I think John Wall really make him a lot more effective. This deal also, the Wizards got rid of the Andrew Nicholson contract, which gives them more cap space this year where they'll have Otto Porter be a free agent. So that helps them in that sense too. So I like it from the Nets perspective. I also think the Wizards perspective, it does make sense too. So I'm cool with it. We'll talk about another trade. This is the guy the Wizards were also looking for. They missed out on him, so maybe this is why they went out of Bojan, is Lou Williams. Lou Williams went from the Lakers to the Rockets, and the Lakers got Corey Brewer in a first-round 2017 pick. And I keep saying 2017 pick because it's important that the draft pick is in this year because this draft class is supposed to be stacked. So I know a lot of teams that there's been trade talk and teams haven't want to give up their 2017 pick. They want to give their 2018 pick. So it does matter.
No, 100%. And like you had mentioned to me when this deal first broke that you thought it could put the Rockets and elevate them into that 2 seed that they had a couple years ago. And, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Lou Williams is, I don't know if we want to call him a leap, but definitely in contention for a six-man of the year. He's won it once, I believe.
Yeah, he would probably be top 2, top 3 finish right now. He's having a career year, averaging 18 a game. I think he's shooting over 38% from 3. So, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Rockets to add some pop. Corey Brewer wasn't doing great. They lose the 2017 first-round pick, but obviously they don't really need to add like another young player. They're trying to contend. So I think this is a Lou Williams piece, and it really gives them a playmaker that they can kind of give James Harden a chance to relax, even when he's on the floor sometimes, or even when he can go on the bench a little bit longer, just because Lou can create for himself and he can create for others a little bit too.
Yeah, like it's just going to make Houston a little bit harder to guard. It gives them another threat offensively, and Lou not necessarily known for his defense, but I think in this situation, it's definitely the right move for Houston to be able to give opponents another guy that is going to spread the floor, is going to shoot the 3, can go one-on-one, doesn't really need much. Like you had mentioned to me, it was a good point. When we were texting about it, it gives Harden probably a couple more minutes to rest, and you could put the ball in somebody else's hand, and that's going to make them even more lethal.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. And they just have a ton of offensive firepower. They're just going all in on offense, whatever. It's working for you this season. I think this probably can push them definitely to the second best team in the West for sure. And I think it makes them a little bit more competitive than with the Warriors in a 7-game series. I don't know if it puts them over the top to beat them, but it just got a little bit better.
Yeah, they were a top 5 team in the league. Offensively, like you had mentioned, this team has been off the charts. And to add Sweet Lou is definitely, again, going to give them another threat, another option, and more spark. But let's look at it from the other side, the other foot, from the Lakers' perspective. Now, Magic Johnson, another news story that broke recently and has probably a lot to do with this deal. Magic Johnson, now the president of basketball operations with the Lakers, and he makes move number 1.
The Lakers have been busy. They clean out the front office. They get rid of Kupchak and Bust. They bring in Magic Johnson. He brings in Kobe's agent, Rob Pelinka, and things get moving. They send out Lou Williams, get a first-round pick, bring in Corey Brewer. I don't think that really mattered that much. It was all about the pick, and they're going full rebuild, which makes sense for the team, building up the assets. First move for Magic Johnson, a good move.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this works out well for both teams.
Yeah, just like the Nets and Washington trade, I think both these trades make sense because both of the teams are on different ends of the spectrum. The Wizards and the Rockets are trying to compete and get in that playoff push to maybe get into a championship. And the Lakers and the Nets are going full rebuild. They understand that it's not their time right now and they need to get better.
100%. And they're building for a future. They want, obviously, now with Williams' contract going forward, I think it's space, and it's one of those situations where with the first round pick, it's definitely I think a move in the right direction for Los Angeles as well.
Yeah, And before we get out of here today, we just will touch on this a little bit. Obviously, we know Jimmy Butler's been mentioned, trade rumors with the Celtics, but today it's been mentioned that the Pacers are testing the water for Paul George a little bit unsure about his future, especially with Magic Johnson, I guess his idol, becoming the president of the Lakers. It kind of made the Pacers a little bit worried. So do you think we could see Paul George in another uniform by this time tomorrow?
Yeah, I do. I think Boston is a legitimate possibility. And I think they're going to be active right up until the deadline with this PG stuff. Now that it looks like, for the most part, just hearing things in New York today, that Anthony is going to be remain a Knick. And so I think it's definitely a possibility for PG to be on the move. I think I'm in the same boat as everyone else, and I told you this earlier today. I just kind of want to see a little bit of blockbuster movement. I know we got Cousins, and like I mentioned on the last fast break, is that sometimes that opens up other blockbuster floodgates, and certain teams feel pressured to make moves as well. I think PG is going to be on the move.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real possibility. And Lou Williams and Bogdanovic aren't too bad of players either. So,
yeah,
it's kind of putting pressure on other teams to make moves when they see this type of thing happen. It sucked for the Pacers, but it'd be kind of cool to see a player of Paul George's caliber and DeMarcus Cousins' caliber moved on the same deadline.
Yeah.
It's not a thing you see all the time.
Definitely not. And also there's also been some rumors about Patrick Beverley. I think the Rockets also shot those down because I know the Cavs trying to reach out to Beverley, and I think the Rockets shot that down.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a million rumors. We're going to give you another show tomorrow, our NBA Outlet show, and we're going to recap the trade deadline. So hopefully we have some more big news to talk about tomorrow. But keep an eye on OTG's Twitter, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Enjoy the deadline.